Welcome to this Venus Alchemy presentation on the 2018 Venus Retrograde Magic. I'm Caitlin Castell here with Tammy Brunk, and we have an amazing journey for you. So, what is that?
Okay, I am going to look at managing participants again. Wait, let me just look at that.
Uh-oh.
Wow.
So
okay.
you can.
Okay. Sorry, Caitlin. Okay, everybody is muted.
All right, good.
Okay.
So let's just take a moment to bring ourselves present, especially since there was a little bit of a Venus retrograde moment as we started this. So I just invite everyone to close their eyes, to connect with your breath, to just come into a place of full presence and just ask yourself to be fully present with what it is that we're going to share with you today. And we're going to begin creating sacred space. Tammy's going to do the invocation to the alchemical goddess, the metamorphic goddess, and for some reason, oh, there we go. Now I got it up. So if you want to say it with her behind your mic, you can do that, because sometimes it's helpful to say it out loud too as it's being shared. So take it away, Tammy.
And I do want to give a little background though, because some of you may not be aware of this, but the way that we look at this part of the cycle when we're working with Inanna as our guide is that we see this part of the cycle as the part where the goddess goes through an a process of profound alchemy or metamorphosis. So this is why we're calling this the charge of the alchemical goddess. Okay. All right, so, and as Caitlin said, if you want to you can even close your eyes, you can just kind of let your body relax. And as we're saying these words together, or as you're hearing me say these words, allow this also to be an opportunity for you to shift from your everyday reality into a different mode, again, to be open to the information that comes through so that it can be of greatest benefit for you. So the charge of the alchemical goddess. I am the goddess of alchemical transformation. I am all endings and all beginnings. I am ancient and I am newborn. I am you, making your most precious final offering, your life and all that defines you, giving away what you have spent a lifetime acquiring, wisdom, insight, knowledge, experiences. You are so much more than this. I offer my body, my heart, my spirit to life as I surrender again and again to death. My galactic womb gives birth to the flowering universe, and all is made new through this transformation. I am your quantum leap into the unknown. Into the beyond. I am fierce grace compelling you to abandon all that is not love, urging you to make the final surrender into your truest heart. I am that peak moment of bliss when you see the other side. I am embodied enlightenment herself. I am the new earth. I am you as the fully realized goddess, fully awakened, fully transformed. Let us dance the new dream together in cosmic bliss, playing the divine game with joyful abandon, breaking all the rules and creating anew.
I don't know why we have a little smudgy thing here.
I don't either. I know. It's like, where did that come from? I'm going to check again to make sure. I might just keep checking. Somehow, when people are coming in, I think not everyone is automatically muted. So,
okay. There is a way you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. What we're looking at, oh, I'm muted.
You're good.
Oh, okay. It said I was muted for a moment. So what we're looking at here, we thought we would start with this piece because a lot of what's happening with this particular Venus retrograde is that we are completing the Aries cycle that started on March 31st, 2017. And Aries is moving to Libra. This is the first time we've had Libra on the world stage in 155 years on November 1st, 2018. And we'll see as we go along that it's a rare handoff between Aries and Libra. And this is something that's got us very excited. But this is also showing you when the next Capricorn cycle is in January of 2022, the next Leo cycle in August of 2023, the next, well, we don't get to see the next Aries cycle, but that'll be in 2025, March of 2025, that'll start. Then, of course, we have the one that's happening now. And then in 2020, June 10th of 2020, we'll begin the Gemini cycle. So, that is forming the 5-pointed star in the sky, the pentagram, and the symbol of the divine feminine. And the most important piece to get out of this is the fact that we're moving from Aries to Libra, and we'll see a little bit more about that as we go along. Okay.
And Kaylin, can I add just something about that really fast?
Sure.
Just to say that when we had first begun this call, that Emma, who is one of our elders from our Venus Alchemy community, who has been, I believe, through every other Venus cycle, was just remarking on how incredible this Aries cycle has been. And because part of what we're doing in this call and part of what we're doing right now is to honor and acknowledge the completion of the Aries cycle, just want to take a moment to just, for any and all of you, to just acknowledge, this is the end of the last Aries cycle of our lifetime. And so, just to acknowledge that, the fierce feminine, we see and feel her within, without. And we were just talking about how, because this is the last cycle, after about 100 years of Aries, repeating Aries Venus cycles, that perhaps this is like the big meta cycle, and it's a personal cycle for all of us. And we've all grown so much. We've all faced so many of our fears. We've all transformed in so many ways. So I just for a moment want to just acknowledge the work we're all doing together around that.
Right, and we're in the final process of that. So as Venus is in her retrograde, before she rises up as the star, we're in that final synthesis. Yeah. All right, so let's see. I need to go to the next page. There we go. Something that's really interesting is that the previous morning star rise in Libra happened. I wonder if I went 2 slides because this is not going very well. Yeah. So basically, the retrograde Venus star rise in Aries started in April of 1921. And the last one was in March 31st of 2017. And then in 2025, Venus will rise as a morning star in Pisces. This means that we have 104 years of Venus on the world stage in Aries, Venus in Aries, Meta Goddess, as one of the points of the pentagram. Now, the Scorpio cycle, interestingly, started the following year, December 1st of 1922, and then the last rise of Venus in Scorpio was November 4th, 2010. And the next time it rises is going to be in a few, 3 weeks, or a little over 3 weeks, in November 1st of 2018. So it has been Scorpio on the world stage for 96 years as one of the points of the pentacle. So this is, and what will happen is the Libra rise happening on November 1st will last until October 4th of 2122. That's another 104 years. So the Venus cycles will rise as a certain sign, either 96 years, 104 years, or 112 years, that they'll be on the world stage. So it gives us a long time to really integrate that particular meta goddess into our collective psyche. And of course, both the Aries and the Scorpio cycles started long before I was born.
Right. Yeah.
Maybe for a lot of us, that's the case.
Could I add something else to that, Kaylin?
Mm-hmm.
Just to say that for any of you who are listening who don't totally get what we're talking about, that from the perspective of Venus alchemy and shamanic astrology, when you looked at that pentagram of the Venus rising in different signs at different seasons, that's basically just for us, that's describing every time Venus begins a new cycle in a particular sign. That is the meta goddess, or the archetype of the goddess that is on the world stage undergoing a death and renewal. She's the one who is really present in the collective psyche doing her work. And so, in other words, there can only be 5 archetypes of the goddess at any given 8-year period, or in any given time really, that we're working with collectively. And so it happens that we've had Aries and Scorpio for about 100 years. Both of them have been a primary leading archetype of the feminine that have been in the collective psyche getting worked. And so we're shifting those two now. So just wanted to give a little background.
Yeah, so somebody just said that your mic is really loud, Tammy. I don't know if you can turn it down.
Thank you. Is that better?
I don't know. They'll have to type
Can you let me know, Gwen?
Yeah. Okay, so.
Oh, good. Sorry about that.
Awesome. Okay, so what's happening, so the last time this happened, when we had a morning star rise of Venus in Libra, it was in November 2nd of 1767. And that lasted until 1863, that it was rising in Libra. And interestingly, this was also happened to be the time in October 30th of 1775, Venus rose in Libra. That was the time that the United States made their Declaration of Independence, and so basically is the meta goddess of the United States chart. And I'm really fascinated to look and see how this is going to play out, because if we look at Libra as collaboration, cooperation, coming together, and we're seeing women all over the world, starting with the Aries cycle, actually coming together to stand up and be willing to have the courage to say what they need to say and then be supported for it. It'll be interesting to see how that plays out for the United States. And that was, so basically in 1767 was the last time we had a handoff between Aries, the Aries meta-goddess, and the Libra meta-goddess. That was 251 years ago. And then we have one happening now, 251 years later, and then in 251 years from now, it will repeat again in 2269. So this is something that is rare. We don't get to experience this in every lifetime, unless we start to live to be past 251 years old.
Right.
But currently that's not something that's been happening for people. So we're in this very unique, very rare, very powerful shift from, starting with Aries, where we get that sense of strength and independence and how do we restore the cosmic balance. And we saw Wonder Woman, and we saw the Black Panther, and we saw the Me Too movement, and we've seen the Women's March on Washington. Actually, that happened a little before the cycle began, but we've been seeing the women coming together to do this. And so that sense of how this cycle, this shift from Aries to Libra, restoring the cosmic balance, maintaining the cosmic balance, we'll share a little bit more about that, but it's so important. So that's what's happening, and that's why this is so rare, and that's why it's blowing our minds.
Yeah, and what it represents a seed point. This is this critical. When I was trying to write about this, and as Kaylin's been writing really eloquently about this and doing this research that I don't see anybody else doing, really, like talking about the 250-year thing, the handoff, that's a massive, major thing. It's hard to really communicate how potent and powerful this moment is, again, where we're straddling these two different cycles. And what I've noticed when I look back over time to what's happening when Venus is retrograde is that it's not necessarily always a time where really huge things are happening on the world stage, but it's often a seeding point where we can be really doing really deep work collectively and in meditation and prayer and in circles like this. And there's some really deep, profound, sacred work that we can do with our intention setting to plant seeds right now and to consider. We also had this phenomenal eclipse in August of 2020 17 that also had a great deal to do with restoring the spiritual blueprint of the U.S. to its original intent. And we did a lot of collective work around that. We all did work around that. And now this is another opportunity for that in the U.S. You know, we could say that that's another opportunity to do that.
Yeah, and it's being a 104-year process, so
yeah,
what intentions we're setting now are so important.
Yeah, and I think too, this is a sacred cycle. Venus is retrograde. Venus is not direct. The feminine is operating in a way where we're really here to tune into great mystery. So what we see happening on the surface on the political stage is important, of course. It does affect our lives. And at the same time, it may be that it's even more important to look at what's happening under the surface.
Right. Okay. So, oops, I went too far again. I don't know what's going on with that, but
So this is just a little more about what we're talking about, which is just another way to look at the Aries Libra cosmic shift, to think about how the Aries goddess, she's the fierce protector of the cosmic order. She's here to restore balance, justice, and harmony, and we have seen her energy unleashed into the world over the last year and a half of this cycle. And when the Aries feminine hands off to the Libra feminine, we could imagine that she's learning to connect powerfully creative forces with others, practicing diplomacy and synergistic collaboration to more effectively and strategically restore and maintain the cosmic balance. So, what does this look and feel like to move from Aries to Libra? How does that support us in creating the new Earth, basically? And then with this Venus retrograde, we shift from Venus and Aries to Libra, to Venus and Libra. And the only time this shift can happen in this way is 251 years, as Kaylin showed. And within this retrograde window, we can choose to see the metamorphosis in our culture. So the USA is entering a larger meta Venus return, moving from battle consciousness to peace, love, and justice, as was originally intended. I love that you added that. And I do think it's significant at this point too, that I won't go into great depth with this, but the Iroquois Confederacy was an enormous part of the original founding. The design of the Constitution was informed very much by them, and so they were part of the seed point. And they were a nation who represented, or a collective of nations, a confederacy, who had their own mythos, their own story, their own origination story about a time of great darkness, much like our own, you could say, where they moved from a time of great conflict into an era of peace. And so again, we can keep re-energizing the idea that this is really a part of our spiritual DNA here in the US, is to actually model peaceful ways of operating in the world. And it sure doesn't look like it now, but anywhere and everywhere we can perceive of that and we can grow that personally, collectively, it's time to do that.
You know that you're reminding me, I started this journey in 2014 with the Capricorn meta goddess on the world stage, working with the Circle of Grandmothers. And that was the piece that they told the founding fathers, do not leave out the Circle of Grandmothers when you create the Constitution. And of course, that's what they left out. And if you do leave it out, you're going to get in trouble. And that's, of course, what's happened.
And meaning that at the top of the hierarchy for the Iroquois Confederacy was the Circle of Clan Mothers, or grandmothers. And they were the ones who had the deepest connection to the wisdom of the past and to the ancestral wisdom that came before. And they also had the highest vision to be able to see, to look forward 7 generations, to consider how every decision would impact the earth and the next 7 generations. So we need to be those grandmothers. We need to be that. And they've guided this Venus journey for Kaylin and I from the very beginning.
Yes.
So this is another time to recognize and honor them.
Yes, I always love to honor them.
Yeah.
Okay. Is this not? Nope, that's not it. Okay. Oh, I went way too far. For some reason, this is really sticky. I don't know what's going on with it.
You can blame it on Venus retrograde.
Yeah, you know. Okay, so I think, let me just see, can I get it to move? Oh my gosh, I've never had this much trouble, ever. Thank you, Venus retrograde. Okay, so I'm hoping this was the next slide. Okay, so one of the things that we've been tuning into, because we've worked with Sekhmet a lot in these different Venus cycles that the last two that we've been through actually, and because because Sekhmet is the queen, and so she really connects to the Leo cycle. She's the lion-headed goddess, and she's also the warrior, solar feminine, warrior protector goddess, and so we've been working with her with these last two cycles. And then when we tune into her story, what we find is that she was sent to Earth to restore the cosmic balance, very Aries. And when she's done, when they finally got her to stop doing what she's doing, that when she wakes up, she sees Ptah. And so I have an image of her here with Ptah, and they become consorts, or husband and wife, and then they have a child, Nefertum, who is the precursor to Asclepius, and so he's all about healing. Their son is all about healing, and they are also all about healing. The whole trio, the Memphis trio, as they were known in Egypt, known for their healing abilities, and also because once the cosmic order was restored, it needed to be maintained, and so they worked together to maintain it. Mm-hmm. And then the gift of the co-creative, conscious, collaborative relationship was able to come forth because the cosmic balance had been restored, and they had, because I think Sekhmet had definitely done her inner journey, the descent into the underworld and the ascent back up, and the sacred marriage, the inner sacred marriage, that wholeness was the beginning point for that relationship. So the outer sacred marriage between the two of them then was the possibility that we got to see on the world stage at that particular time, or at least based on the story that we have. One of the stories that we have of Sekhmet. So there's different stories, but this is the one that I feel really is helping to inform this shift from the Aries metagoddess to the Libra metagoddess. If you want to add, Tammy?
Oh, just that again, it's kind of, we can just look at this as a personal, the cycle is something that's going to shift things very profoundly at the personal level as well as the collective level. And Libra has everything to do with the personal bond and primary relationship. And it does have a lot to do with marriage and those kinds of things. And so, yeah, I love that we've worked so much with Sekhmet in the past with our other Venus cycles, and that's one of the versions. So it's so potent and powerful that, again, Sekhmet shows up in every cycle, it seems. She's really, again, a guiding force.
Yeah, beautiful. So what we're seeing here, because on October 5th, just 2 days ago, Venus went retrograde, and she went retrograde at 10, almost 11 Scorpio. And and she's going to stay retrograde until November 16th. And so here's where she started. Here's, kind of not too far from Zubin el-Janubi, that's at 14 or 15, actually 15 Scorpio, Venus at 11, almost 11, and then she's going to go back across the sky till she gets back to Spica on November 16th, and we're going to talk about the importance of that in a moment. So this place of going, of retrograding back, she's already passed Spica once. She did that earlier in September, and then she's coming back again, and she's going to come back fairly close, actually, within about from visual perspective, like about a degree and a half in the sky. She'll be exact with Spica, or almost exact with Spica when she stations direct within about a degree and a half. So, and then just say October 10th, so coming up in the next 3 days, we're going to have, this is where the moon will be visible. So the moon and kind of above Venus at that particular time, and coming up to Jupiter. And so we've got Mercury, we've got Moon, Venus conjunction, and we've got Jupiter all in Scorpio. on October 10th. And interestingly, on that day, it'll be an exact square to Mars. And so this is probably one of the main times where you could still see Venus really low on the horizon, and then over here somewhere, because it's off the star map, is Mars. So you can actually see the square between them if you have a low enough horizon to see Venus. I did see Venus the other day from where I am, but I had to go up a hill because it dropped down behind the hill before the sun, wasn't visible after the sunset. Anyway, so one of the things we wanted to just bring up about this is that this Venus-Mars journey, that they have different ways they interact with each other. Sometimes they meet first in the evening sky, and then they meet in the morning sky, or then sometimes they meet first in the morning sky and then the evening sky. This happens to be what we call the Underworld Saga. There will be a shamanic astrology webinar on this come January probably. And we'll talk more about this piece, but it's the only time Venus and Mars actually come together is when they're with the sun. And the sun is the source of light and life for our planet, so we can source new ways of doing relationship between the masculine and feminine in the Underworld Saga. And in fact, my husband Peter and I chose to get married when Venus and Mars were conjunct the sun back in 2006, in October of 2006, in the Underworld Saga, because we wanted to create something new around how the masculine and the feminine relate in the outer world.
Wow.
Yeah. So, anything more you want to say about that?
Oh, no, like what you're saying about how Venus is really close to the horizon now, so you can't see her very well. I think that's true for a lot of us in the northern hemisphere especially, but those in the south, she's actually pretty high up there still. And so for those of us who can still see Venus, it is a pretty significant time because Venus and Mars are square. It's almost like they can see each other. They're visible in the sky together. So something interesting is happening between the masculine and the feminine right now, you could say it's a standoff. And they're approaching that now. They're already, wouldn't you say, Kaylin, they're already within that square.
Yeah, they're already
another thing to consider.
Yeah.
Another energy to consider in the game.
Yeah, absolutely. So, but if we think about it, that relational aspect, it's kind of almost like also a preparing for, what does it mean to have Venus and Libra in the, as the new meta goddess.
Right.
Yeah.
So I am getting a couple people who are saying, Kaylin, that you're kind of chirpy sounding feedback. I think that has to be probably my connection. I'm not sure because I hear it when you talk and maybe they hear it when I don't know. That's funny. Yeah, maybe I can ask. I'm going to be talking here in a minute if people can let me know if I've got the same effect. So, I'm not sure that we can do something about it because I think it's my connection and it's raining and there may be some issues, but I'm not sure that we can fix it completely. Right. Unfortunately. And then some people are saying they're not hearing any feedback. So yeah. So I wonder if that has to do with other people's connection as well. I don't know. Yeah. So there's something else that people are mentioning, that the link that was sent in the email is invalid and not working, so they had to use the link under the video. So I'm not sure. Again, we have quite a few people on the call. So what? I took the link from the page. I took it exactly from the page, so I don't know why it's not working. Again, Venus is retrograde. Oh, yeah. Well, whatever. Here we are. Right. Yeah. Okay, so let's see. Now it's not letting me do this. What the heck? All right. Come on. There we go. So considering maybe following from that whole, if you looked on Kaylin's slide, the way there's so much that's in Scorpio right now. It's not just Venus. And also Venus and Mars are square. So there's some intense energy there. But one of the ways to understand what's happening with Venus in Scorpio now is that Venus is traveling through Scorpio from September 9th to October 31st. So that's the first period where it's in Scorpio. That's a very long period of time for Venus to be in one sign. So just prior to the morning star rise of Venus, it's in Scorpio this whole time. And then Venus returns to Scorpio from December 2nd to January 7th. So this is, especially this period prior to the new cycle, is a time that we've been sensing into as very intense. Scorpio, the Scorpio goddess can be seen as Kali Ma, and I don't know about you, but I've seen a lot of references to her in the past week. And she can be seen as the dark goddess in her many forms. But again, if we think about the reality that this is leading up to, that we have had Scorpio Venus cycles for 96 years leading up to now, and now we're shifting to Libra, we can consider, one of the insights we've had is that it's almost as if in this span of time, we're experiencing the shadow, we're experiencing the powerful Scorpio goddess energies, kind of like a recapitulation of what's happened over the last 96 years to women. What is the shadow, or what have women encountered in patriarchy that has been in shadow is being revealed in a very potent, powerful way. And so many of us are feeling that right now. So it's a time, you could say, where we can transmute that, we can really meet that, we can heal from that, but just also to hold compassion for ourselves collectively, because it's a lot that we are navigating. Kayla, do you want to add anything else about that?
Right. Well, so I'm having trouble. Okay, I want to go back a couple of slides, or maybe just one. I don't know. Come on. Oh, it's not. It's like, what the heck? It was working fine for a minute, and then it stopped working. Anyway, because we have we're going to have Venus and Mercury conjunct. I think it's on the 14th in Scorpio, very near a star we'll talk a little bit more about in a moment. Then we're going to have Venus and the Sun conjunct, the retrograde Venus, of course, on October 26th, around 3 degrees Scorpio. And so many ways of looking at the Venus cycle. We're not saying one way is right and one way is wrong. And that's part of one of the things we want to get away from, is all this polarization. I'm right, you're wrong.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
So some people started with this cycle, but many, many, many ancient cultures started it with the heliacal rise of Venus, and that's why we are doing that. One of the things is it's really easy to know with Venus Sun conjunction, it's going to be the same all across the planet, everywhere. You can't see it, but it's happening. And the ancient people would not have known what day that was exact. So, but they would know when they could see Venus rise and see the stars behind Venus and know something about what was going on then. And so we use a 10-degree orb. We'll talk about that a little bit more in a moment. But so the Sun conjunction in Scorpio is still like that remnant of the Scorpio cycle that's playing itself out before Venus begins her new journey at her heliacal rise. So I guess that's what I want to say. Anything else about that, Tammy?
To me, I just look at it and I just feel all the Scorpio that's present, Venus with the Sun. And not only that, but of course, we're also right there with Dia de los Muertos, Day of the Dead,
right.
Samhain, right. Halloween, the dark time of the year in the Northern Hemisphere, leading into there's a lot of intensity. There's a lot of shadow to navigate. So a good time to, a really good time to tune into not only the challenge of Scorpio in this time of year, but that there is also this underlying feeling, there can be a feeling of aliveness, of ecstatic, aware of just when we're willing to be with our feelings, when we're willing to move into this intense territory in a way that's present and awake and really willing to face the shadow within and without, we gain a tremendous amount of life force energy from that encounter. And again, it can feel profoundly enlivening and even ecstatic. So to really acknowledge that as well, that's part of the Scorpio energy.
And the other piece of it being where we need to grieve.
Yeah.
The deep grief of what's dying, what needs to die, and being willing and open to surrender to that process is also Scorpio. So, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So on October 5th, when Venus stationed retrograde, Mercury was near Spica. And this is significant because when Venus stations direct, she's going to be near Spica. And Spica is around 24 Libra. Venus is stationing direct at 25 something Libra. So very close. They're going to be very close together at that station point. And so we just wanted to bring in a little bit of information about the star magic that's connected to Spica.
Yeah, because it's so cool because there are these two major planet stars that are being activated during this that are fascinating. So the first is Spica, and Spica is a binary star. Like many stars, we think that they're just one, but they're two or three often. Spica is a binary star. It's flushed white. I always like to show pictures because then we can tune into the actual star, and she's so gorgeous. She's located in the hand of the Virgin Priestess constellation. She's often seen as representing an ear of corn or wheat. Sometimes this is seen as where she holds the scales of justice, which is interesting, thinking about the Libra mysteries. So Spica is the brightest star in the Virgo constellation, or the Virgin constellation, long associated with women's mysteries and the sovereign divine feminine across many cultures and ages. And this is significant because there are many constellations that have very different stories connected to them, depending on where you're located across the globe. But the Virgin, or Virgo, across many, many cultures is seen as the feminine. And as the brightest star in the Virgin, she is like the compressed, concentrated energy of this sovereign, divine, kind of priestess energy. So in many cultures, she's used as a stand-in for Venus, or the celestial embodiment of the divine feminine when Venus can't be seen in the morning or evening sky. So there also were many temples that were dedicated to and aligned with Spica in ancient Greece. This is how important she was, this star. Spica was recognized by the ancient alchemists of Persia and beyond as one of the 15 Bohemian stars, and her power was maximized when the moon or a planet was within 6 degrees. So Venus is within 6 degrees of Spica, October 29th to December 3rd. And her magical herb is sage, and her crystal is the emerald. So if you want to do some high magic with Spica, then those are some fun things to consider for amulets or for whatever. So Spica is currently located in the seasonal sign of Libra, which is about 24 degrees Libra, representing humanity's current project to evolve and uplift human relationships through the wisdom and insight of the sovereign divine feminine. And I've been really feeling this is like this, we need to elevate, we need to evolve the way we operate in partnership, the way we operate in marriage, in primary bonds, and in community, and the closest relationships. So Spica is supporting that. She's illuminating that for us.
Yeah, and it's so cool that Venus actually comes back. And so Spica is the stand-in for Venus. Venus is actually coming back to Spica to station direct.
Right.
So they're like, so when they're together, it just has that sense of maximizing the power of the divine feminine.
Absolutely. So cool.
Just something to know about the Bohemian stars, the alchemists that worked with these stars. These stars were considered magical stars. So when the planets were with them, doing ceremony, doing intention, creating amulets or potions or elixirs or whatever it was that they were doing, this was the time they would do it, when they were within 6 degrees. And so we have a long period of time. Usually Venus passes by Spica within a few days, a week or two at the most, and then gone. And we had Venus with Spica in September, and now we're going to have this long period of time, an entire month and a couple of days on either side of that, where we have, Venus with Spica. So definitely something to tune into. We won't see her because the sun will be with Spica on October 30th. So
So here's an idea that could be fun for any of you who want to do it. Kaylin, do you know, I'm trying to remember, I guess it would be, when would Venus be at her closest to Spica?
When she stations direct.
When she stations direct, that's okay. So when she stations direct, which is again on the 16th of November, could be a time to practice some Spica alchemy. You might even put like a glass of water with an emerald, some kind of a raw emerald stone, and some sage in a glass of water, and let that be outside under the starry sky or with the sun, because they're actually going to be pretty close to the sun still. In any case.
Yes, that's just one idea. Who's doing some Venus stuff. Yeah. So this is the constellation of the Virgin Priestess, also known as Virgo. And just for those of you who might not be aware, in shamanic astrology, we call it the Virgin Priestess because the sign of Virgo is seasonal, and it's barely in the head of the Virgin Priestess at this point. Most of this sign is covered by Libra, or most of this constellation now is covered by Libra, except for this next star we're going to talk about, Kambalia, the 7 Scorpio, the star of secret knowledge. So over 26,000 years, every seasonal sign will be with every constellation. And currently we have mostly Libra overlaying this constellation, and definitely overlaying Spica at around 24 Libra. So if you have anything on your chart within 6 degrees of 24 Libra, then you have a personal connection to that star. So now Kambalia, what's interesting, of course, Venus is passing the star. It's already passed it once. It's going to pass it 2 more times, October 19th and December 13th. Then Mercury is going to go into Scorpio on October 9th. That's just 2 days from now. And we'll pass Kambalia on October 14th. And then Mercury and Venus are going to meet on October 15th within a degree of Kambalia. And then Venus and the Sun are going to meet on October 26th within range of the star. There, I think it's 3 Scorpio. So I think we've already talked about that a little bit. So, and this is 7. So they're only 4 degrees apart. So they're still within that sort of magical range. And then, of course, the Sun will pass this star on October 30th. So these are the activations that are energizing new thresholds of consciousness and awareness through magic and manifestation. Scorpio, very much about magic and manifestation. As Venus prepares for her Libra journey, restoring relational magic as a powerful expression of the divine feminine. And one of the things that has been destroyed or dismantled quite a lot is our relationship to nature. And so one of the things we'll be focusing a lot on during this Libra journey is how do we get our magic back by getting our connection and our relationship to nature back.
And I love that you're saying that, because it's important to understand that because this is the first Libra cycle, it's almost like there's an overlay of Scorpio that's still present. We're still working with the Scorpio Libra, like a synthesis of those energies. And so that even makes it more potent and essential that we connect to the forces of the natural world, because Scorpio is actually what helps us access that.
Yes, beautiful, beautiful said. So just something to know about the star, and it is in the foot of the Virgin Priestess, Scorpio. So basically from the head of the Virgin Priestess, around 27 Virgo, to the foot of the Virgin Priestess, 7 Scorpio. So the Libra, the stars Libra, most of the stars of the Virgin Priestess are in Libra right now. And so there's, again, that crossover between the Scorpio Libra mysteries that's going on right now. Eric Morse wrote a book called The Living Stars a long time ago. It's been around, this book has been around for a long time. But what he has to say about this particular star is really fascinating. He says basically that the name Kambalia comes from the Old Coptic. It means crooked claw, or it's also connected to the swastika. Now, many people don't have a very good feeling about the swastika because it was demonized or taken. Basically, you can see here that it was turned sideways, because the original swastika is upright like this. And it has to do with good luck and love and life and light and all these wonderful things. But what Hitler did was turned it, and in a way turning it into a symbol of fear. So what our opportunity is how do we shift back to getting our magic back around this particular symbol? And the Hopi, this bowl here, a Hopi bowl, is from 2500 BC. This is Prophecy Rock. I've been to Prophecy Rock twice, and I've seen, and they have the swastika on the symbols of what's happening here on Prophecy Rock. So it's pretty amazing to think about, and that our opportunity is to, again, reclaim the symbol as something that can be supportive to us, turn it back to its original direction. And as this star is also known as the star of secret knowledge. So while Venus is passing it, we can attune into it to really find the messages that are available to us. Like basically, it's a secret maybe because we just don't know how to access it. So if we practice accessing it and just tuning in, meditating on it, that kind of thing, and it really contains that ancient knowledge that supports the creative expression of the mysteries that are encoded within, and that support the co-creation of conscious, collaborative, loving, and magical relationships.
Beautiful. Oh my gosh, I want to say something about that, Kaylin, before you change it, because it's so powerful as you're talking about this, because I hadn't seen what Kaylin created here. We talked about it, but it's so powerful. Because as you're saying this, it really, it reminds me so much of, I've been kind of obsessed with this, and I think we've both kind of really thought so much about the way that Venus morning star, and this is also what we're talking about with Venus retrograde, is it's in the heart of Venus retrograde cycle that Venus rises as morning star, and across many cultures, that was a time of blood sacrifice. That was a time where they would stage their battles in Mesoamerica and across the globe during a particular period of historic time that we are aware of. And so what we see from that is that morning star rise is a time of profound power. There's a lot of energy, there's a lot of aliveness in that moment, in that period. There's also, and this is true for sacred sites that have cathedrals built on top of them, even though they used to be temples, or, the way anything that has a tremendous amount of power in it, what we've seen in this time of distortion is it's like it's turned on its side, and that energy is used in a twisted, distorted way, like women's bodies, for example. The feminine is the source of light, of life, of Shakti, life force energy, and when it's twisted and used in a distorted way, and it's like what we're doing with the earth, with her energy system, when we're extracting that in a wrong way, we're seeing what that's doing to us.
Yeah, so I like that. Yeah, it's been turned. Just basically the same mysteries there, but they've just been turned somehow. So how do we turn them back?
How do we turn it back? It doesn't seem like it has to be that hard, right? Just right. Like, it shouldn't have to be that hard. That's the positive. So I just had Sunny just wrote, the swastika also appears in sacred ancient sites in Thrace, in current Bulgaria, in Homer's and Dionysus's land, and it dates to 15th to 17th BC. So
yes,
that's great.
Many cultures. In fact, there's a lot in the where I live where you see this symbol in the petroglyphs, and
that's
of course
right.
So yeah, it's been around a long time, and if you look at this Hopi bowl in 2500 BC with the swastika on it, many other cultures work with that symbol, and basically it's also representative of the seasons, the equinox points, that kind of thing.
4 directions.
4 directions, yeah.
So Tracy says maybe we turn it forward instead of back. The swastika, I mean.
Right, but turn it right. But turn it back. But turn it right to its right position.
It's correct. Yeah. She's And then Sunny is saying its symbolism is the sun marrying the great divine mother. Beautiful. That's very interesting. Thank you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Okay.
Wow.
Okay, now I'm gonna see if I can make this go again. Come on. All right. Went too far. Just one slide, please.
It's being tricky.
It is being Okay.
It's a little trickster energy here.
Yes. I think this is
okay. So again, we talked about the alchemical goddess in the beginning, but also we could say it's the metamorphic goddess, or this is the metamorphosis phase of the Venus cycle. that happens at the heart of Venus retrograde. So over the course of the 584.5-day Venus cycle, Venus as Inanna goes through 2 underworld initiations. And of course, if you take any of our courses, you'll learn a lot more about that, but this is just to give you an overview. So the first underworld cycle is the Inanna underworld phase. And this is at the very heart of the entire 584-day cycle. And it's when Venus is with the sun for 60 to 90 days. So the Inanna meta goddess, so in this last phase, it was the Aries goddess. She undergoes a ceremonial death and rebirth, and she emerges as an initiated, empowered version of her current goddess archetype. The second is the metamorphic underworld phase, and that's the very end of every Venus cycle, where the goddess, and this is where, again, Venus crosses between us, the earth and the sun, and this is the time where she undergoes a rapid and complete metamorphosis into the new goddess archetype, in this case, Libra. So October 20th, Venus drops into the metamorphic underworld, rising November 1st. This is when the Aries goddess dies and is reborn as the Libra goddess. And we are invited to die a good death too in this magical, mysterious time, letting go of our old limiting identities so we can be reborn completely anew.
Yes, beautiful. Right. So I just want to tell people that I have been using my arrows, my keypad, trying to figure out how to make this work. I literally have never had this kind of problem before. So I don't know what's going on.
But it's such a helpful group. Like, they're offering so much great advice.
Yeah, this is awesome. Okay. And for some reason, because the way I'm doing it, it's not giving me an arrow that I usually have when I do it from the PowerPoint itself. But anyway, okay. So just so people can see, on November 1st, when Venus rises as the morning star, 2936 Libra, it's coming up over the horizon. The sun is at 9 Scorpio. It's about 10 degrees from the sun. We use that 10-degree orb because we know for sure, pretty much everywhere on the planet, you'll be able to see Venus as a morning star. Now, sometimes, some of these cycles, like in the Aries cycle, in some places on the planet, she disappeared the night before from the evening sky and reappeared in the morning sky the next day. A really fast underworld metamorphosis.
Yeah, totally. That's metamorphosis. Can you imagine in ancient times, like if you're really a person who tracks that, seeing her in the evening sky one night and the morning sky? I mean, that's pure magic.
Yes. So sometimes shorter, sometimes a little bit longer. But when we work with the story of the Nana, the number magic of the Sumerians and the number 8, like an 8-day metamorphic underworld phase, is what we usually see or what we usually work with, just because every cycle is going to be different. So we just wanted to acknowledge that piece, and that this is how we decided to, because we know for sure people will be able to see Venus in the morning sky on the 1st of November all over the planet. Okay, so why won't you work? Oh my gosh.
Oh, you'll get it. It's okay. All right. So this is again, kind of going back to the scorpionic energy that we're working with right now. And regardless of, this is personal, not political, as Kaylin recently said in her really incredible last celestial timings share. And so we share this because it's in the field, because many of us, women and also men, are feeling really triggered by what's been coming to light. Regardless of how you feel about the political dimension, a lot has come up. So what Marianne Williamson says about this is feels very appropriate for the completion of an Aries cycle and with Venus in Scorpio. She says, they have done it now. They have done what thousands of feminists, hundreds of feminist organizations, and millions of women working as social and political activists over the years have not been able to do. They have harnessed the power of 1,000 hurricanes. I don't know about you, but I know a lot of women right now who are really pissed. and a lot of women who do feel this. It's been ignited. It is not just that they have triggered the memories of every woman who has ever been sexually harassed or abused. Now they have triggered the memories of every woman who has ever had her opinions ignored or her feelings scorned. I think you might have just elected the first woman president. A fierce giant force has just been awakened among us. And unlike Kuan Yin sitting silently next to my television, we will not be silent. In the coming days and weeks and years, we will speak our truth. We will hear each other and we will believe each other. And this time, by men, by women alike, we will be heard.
Yes. Beautiful. And I did share a Me Too story that Tammy was referring to, and I think Tammy's just also writing her own Me Too story, or has written it.
Yeah, I've just shared a little bit about mine too. Because Kaylin and I both, I know, again, regardless of whether you would agree with this or, without a doubt, this is an opening for women to talk about what's happened to us. This is an opportunity for healing. And I know I've had a lot of women come to me who are really working through a lot right now. And Kaylin, I'm sure you've had a lot of women respond to what you wrote too.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah. It's time for us to speak up. And I haven't really been silent about it, but I've never really written about it. So that was a big step. And I felt like I had to. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of women are feeling that way more now. So, how do we support one another, and how do we step up, and how do we change the culture that allows this to happen, that has allowed this to happen?
And how do we do the inner work, and how do we do the outer work? How do we do them both?
Yes. Beautiful. Okay. So, one of the things I also shared in the Celestial Timings this month was about voting for our reality. And because we have an election coming up, and I hear this all the time, that the elections are rigged, it doesn't really matter, my vote doesn't really count, blah, blah, blah. And so people just don't vote. And I think that it's really true that our vote is our voice, and we need to vote. We need to get out and vote. And it does, and in whatever way feels right for you. So Caroline Casey, I love her. She's such an activist. And she basically says that everything we're doing, everything we're thinking, everything we're saying, everything that we're feeling, that is voting for our reality. Mm-hmm. And so that the word vote comes from the root word of devote. Mm-hmm. So voting is a way of actively devoting ourselves to taking additional responsibility and consciously co-creating our reality. And it's through these acts of devotion that we begin to see a new reality where we all work together to co-create peace and plenty for everyone. So that intention of vote, just go and vote. And if there's not anybody you can vote for, if you can't, none of the candidates really work for you, write somebody in that would represent your intention. Because what we're doing is we're voting for our intention. And I think that is the thing to keep in mind. And also, nowadays it's so easy. I just am on a permanent list to get mailed a ballot. And so I just vote at home. I don't have to go anywhere. I put it in the mail. And so, they've made it a lot easier in that regard these days. So I think it is part of our maybe our responsibility to, if we're going to change things, we need to step up and we need to vote.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Beautiful. I think that as you're saying this too, and I love what Caroline Casey says, it's just, we can make any of this a sacred act. We can mail our ballot, or we can go to the voting, and we can make that a sacred act. We can approach it in that way. I remember after Trump was elected, listening to Marianne Williamson also say something about how, when we as people who are part of the consciousness movement or part of the broader kind of spirituality, the new spirituality kind of paradigm, when we have entered the domain of health, when we've entered the domain of business, when we've entered these different domains, we transform them. And she just said, we have not yet done that in the political arena. But when we do, when we bring our spirituality and our consciousness into those arenas, it will transform and shift. And that's the other thing. I don't know. I don't always watch. One of the things that's coming through in this current political kind of scenario is that if you look back at Anita Hill and what happened after that, there were a tremendous number of female women voted into the Senate right after that period. So whatever they're telling you on the news, there's going to be an equal balancing.
Yeah, including when Anita Hill, there was a woman in Illinois who ran for the Senate, the U.S. Senate. First Black woman ever elected to the U.S. Senate. After that happened, she was so inspired by Anita Hill's testimony.
Yeah. Yeah, so I do want to just back up for a minute because we had some comments that I was going to read really quickly. So Sunny had actually also said, divine timing indeed, and she's referring to the 40-day thing, which we really didn't talk about because we talked about that in our overview video, which we recommended that you watch. But the Venus retrograde cycle, it's always a different number of days, but it's always close to 40. It's 43 this time on average. So Sunny writes, something quite extraordinary woven in ancient Bulgarian traditions observed to this day is that when someone passes over, they are mourned for 40 days. When a baby is born, 40 days have to pass before it can be brought out to the world to be seen and greeted. So, you know, and that's something we often, 40 days in the wilderness, 40 is a sacred number. So again, it's just this confirmation. This Venus retrograde cycle is a potent, powerful time to approach in a sacred manner. And
the age 4 Venus return also is the Mercury return, and Mercury and Venus together in some traditions, in the Jewish tradition, was seen as the return of the Shekinah. So age 40 is a significant Venus return, and also every 40 years. So age 80 would be again, and then so it's powerful. That number 40 is powerful. 40 days, 40 years, right?
Absolutely. So do we want to do the activation first or read the resources first, Kaylin?
I think we can do the activation and we can then just...
Okay. So, all right. So let's just take a moment and I think, everybody's videos are off. So let's just take a moment we're going to do a very simple activation to connect to the energies of this sacred cycle. So let's everyone just take about 3 deep breaths and just settle into our bodies and into the present moment. And if it helps to also imagine that you are extending your roots from your root chakra and also from the bottom of your feet down into the earth, just to ground, to connect to the aliveness, to the warmth of our mother. Now I want you to pay attention to your body and sense into any areas in your body that might feel heavy, or where you might feel an ache. And now take a moment to allow that part of your body to reveal to you. Maybe this is just a thought that comes through your mind. Maybe you can actually even imagine that there is an energy that you can see, like an object in that part of your body. But what we're opening to in this moment is asking the question, what am I carrying now? What energy, what old pattern, what old aspect of myself, or even a burden that I'm carrying for someone else, or an old ancestral pattern that is very heavy, that needs to be released. What is it that I'm carrying in my body, in my energy field now, that is ready to be released and transformed? So just take a moment, allow yourself to encounter that, what that is. Again, you might see it, you might hear a message, you might see an object. What is ready to, what part of me, what old pattern, what energy that I hold What is ready to be transformed and released now? And once you see that, now I want you to imagine and see the reality that in front of you now is appearing a beautiful goddess, and she looks somewhat like you. And if you're a man, then just know she is your inner goddess. She looks somewhat like you, but even more magical. She is the alchemical goddess. She is the metamorphic goddess. And she is you as that goddess. So perhaps you see her with butterfly wings. Perhaps you see her as a shapeshifter of many colors, perhaps made of stars and planets and glitter and rainbows. You may see her as yourself, but as a multi-dimensional being, because this is what she is. She represents the part of you that has access to every timeline, the part of you that knows in every moment how to be simultaneously born and how to die to your old self, how to continually transform. So just take a moment to observe her, to see her clearly in your mind's eye. And she's there for you. She is you, she is a part of you, and she is here for you in this moment to reveal to you your true magic, your true beauty, your true multidimensionality. So now as you observe her, imagine that in your hands you now hold a physical representation of whatever this burden is, whatever this aspect of yourself, of your energy field, whatever it is that you're carrying that's heavy, that is ready to be released. Now I want you to imagine, you might even put your hands forward and imagine that you're handing this to this metamorphic goddess. And she takes it in her hands. She closes her hands. And now she opens them, and when she does, you see that it's been transformed into something new. What do you see in her hands? And if you feel blocked in any way, it's okay. Whatever you see is fine. And now I want you to take her hands in your hands and feel the energy of this aspect of your being, this part of you that is much bigger than your daily self, this part of you that knows exactly how to face and transform your greatest fears, this part of you that knows how to stand in whatever reality you are facing and move into it with pure grace and love and an awareness of the greatness of your spirit. So as you hold her hands now, just feel that energy of magic, of joy, of ecstasy, of bliss, of your transcendental self. Feel that energy course into your body now. And also just take a moment to take in any other insight or information if she has any other message from you. If you want to learn more about this object or whatever it is that was transformed, just take a moment to integrate this experience. And once you're complete, you might choose to embrace her. You might choose to take her energy fully into your body and to claim her as a part of you. And now bring your attention back once again to your body, into your breath, into the present moment and into the room where you now sit or stand. And when you're ready, open your eyes. and return to our circle with whatever gifts you received from this activation. And I think now we're close to complete.
We'll open it up for questions or comments, I think.
Yeah.
Too, but yeah, so just if you are interested in, you know, I know many of you on the call have already been in our Venus classes. We love you. and many of you are already planning to join with us in the next cycle. But if you're new to this and would like to explore this brand new Libra relational metagoddess journey with us, we have the Morning Star class will be 8 classes, then the Evening Star class, there's usually, we have a couple month break, will be 8 classes, and we do them before each chakra gate. Chakra gates, the descent journey, the ascent journey, the, you know, releasing and letting go, and that's all explained much more other places. I'm not going to go into that too much right now, but unless people have questions later. But there's just 1 class a month, so it's not like it's absorbing a lot of your time. So we would love to have you join us. Our first class will be November 28th at 5 p.m. Pacific. And you can either go to venusalchemy.com or you can go to the Libra Morning Star Journey. If you go to venusalchemy.com, there's a link right to the page that talks about this journey that we're doing. And we'd love to have you join us. And if not, we'll see you when we do another something.
Yeah, but it is an amazing, amazing community, and it's an amazing journey. So it would be awesome to have you. And I'm going to read a comment before we open it up then to sharing. So Janine writes, it's powerful that we are moving into a new reality with Libra that is partnership-based, uses collaboration, listening to all stories from all, and then using diplomacy to create a new society based in love, peace, abundance, and reverence for the earth and one another. We are all one, living in union with our beautiful Mother Earth. It's awesome.
Beautiful.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. And Lisa said, beautiful presentation. Thank you so much. So thank you to everyone. And I think at this stage, we're just going to open up and people can just share if they have questions. And I'll tell you in a minute how this can work. We have about 15 minutes for questions or for comments, or if you want to share what you saw in your guided journey. So why don't you can, if any of you know, you can actually raise your hand. There's a way you can do that. I believe that's down on the left. And I would say you can just unmute yourselves, but I think that's going to be a little crazy. So
or you can turn on your video and go like this. And
yeah, you can turn on your video and you can wave if you'd like. You can do that. The other thing you can do is you can send a message to us saying, please unmute me, and I'll try to find you. Oh, and Lainey Love, awesome, you're here. Timing on the class is 7 or 8 p.m. EST. It is actually 8 p.m. Eastern Standard. Yeah, 5 Pacific is 8 p.m. Eastern Standard, and it's about an hour and a half. So, yeah, oh my gosh, it'd be awesome if you joined us. Lainey happens to be a metamorphic goddess herself. So, yeah, so awesome. Thank you, beloved, she says. So, love you too, Lainey. Awesome. Okay, so if anybody wants to turn on their video, or if they want to wave using that function, or if they want to send a little message saying I would like to speak, any of those ways you can share with us. So, okay, Emma, I'm going to unmute you.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, good. Tammy, when you were doing this meditation, it really, really touched me. I have been working with Ho'oponopono, and I now have another part that I can bring into it. I've been going back in to my ancestors from the beginning of humankind on the planet. And this is something I needed in that communication. And I realized that that how that energy that we're touching here, how it, as it vibrates in us, then we can reach out and let that vibration be available for everybody else we can come in contact with. And I like to do it from the ancestors forward.
Beautiful.
So thank you.
Thank you so much, Emma. That is such a beautiful meditation. I'm so glad this added to it for you.
Oh, I forgot to say one thing, is that I was given a stone. And I took this very common, ordinary looking stone in my hand. And as I looked at it, it became very liquid, very airy. It was like it was balancing back and forth between air and water. And it made me stop and think of Mars being in the overtone of Aquarius right now. It's air and water. And I'm thinking, okay, the sacred marriage is very, very important. And if you think you've done it right, do it again.
You always do more. Always do more.
It's
So
powerful work.
love you.
Thanks, Emma.
Thanks, Emma. We love you too. Okay. So again, if anyone wants to...
So Lace and Amy, I think, want to be...
Oh, awesome. Okay. Now if I can just find Lace.
Or Amy. So we're Amy first.
Either one.
Or is it...
I'm going to... okay, I've got Lace.
Oh.
Hi, Lace.
You're just choosing me because I didn't do anything. So you're giving me a voice. All I can say is thank you. It's been quite a journey, and I loved what Emma said earlier about what a cycle this was, and it made me think of, the critical degree of a sign, what a cycle it is, and this was the last cycle of Aries. So it's critical that we get this right.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Great point. Thanks, Lace. It's always so awesome to see you.
Yeah.
It's just good to see you.
All right. So now I see Tatiana, so I'm going to unmute. Tatiana, hi.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Oh, awesome. Yeah, and also wanted to thank you. And just so excited because I was in the original Capricorn journey, and I'm a Venus in Capricorn. And then took a break, and now I'm like, okay, this Aries cycle has been so intense, and it's like no matter what you fight for, it's still about division. And so looking forward to diplomacy and to harmony, like creating some, dreaming maybe together, some kind of a harmonious relationship between whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah, and there's so many outrageous things going on right now, like in my personal life and in my political landscape, and I just saw this like really heavy. I just feel this really heavy, almost painful thing in my body, and it was also kind of a stone that I gave to the goddess, and the message was it's about positivity. It's really about just you don't have to be negative. For every negative thought, there is a positive one. And why don't you try to do that? We'll see. We'll see how that works, but
Yeah. I love that you're saying that.
Excited. Thank you so much.
I love that you're saying that, because one of the things I've been aware of is how my thoughts can just drag me right down into the place, like, oh God, what's going on, and how could this be happening, and haven't we made any more progress, and those spirally thoughts that can happen. And so what I've been doing is just practicing being aware and not judging myself for having them, and then being able to bring myself back to a place of love, a place of higher vibrational energy, higher changing those thoughts. So I love that you said that, because I think it's a practice. And sometimes we may find ourselves in the depths of
Well,
right?
Yeah, and I mean, and I appreciate too, of course, Tatiana, like I know there's maybe a difference between getting sucked into what I'm seeing people do sometimes is, especially if they watch the news a lot, no offense, but I think if you watch the news too much, you're going to get sucked into it. Is, you know, really, it's more about the mind. It's into this really low vibrational kind of repetitive groove. And I think it's psychic warfare, honestly. Like, I think that we can't get caught and sucked into that. That's different than feeling authentic grief or rage or sorrow, which will transform into joy and into ecstasy and into the positivity if we let it. It's very different to let ourselves feel the emotions, which can change. Then, and I agree with you though too, like, and obviously it's your vision, that shifting and learning to see the positivity in it is really essential right now. I think it's really true.
Well, what I see, I mean, one of the things I see is really positive is that it's galvanizing women. And I have this sense of like, there's a tsunami coming. It's already started.
Yeah.
And it's not going to get stopped. You can't stop a tsunami once it's on its way.
No, absolutely not.
Because we need it to come along and take out what's been so something new can come in.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome. Tatiana, it's so fun to see you signed up again. It's so good to see you.
Yeah.
We miss you.
Yeah, we missed you.
I know.
Yeah.
All right.
All right.
I was on a journey and I'm back.
Yay.
Awesome. Bringing gifts. All right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to read something Abby wrote, I saw all myself at many ages join with my goddess image before joining with me, healing my fragmented self, making me whole. So beautiful. Thank you. So she said, what are the 5 goddesses we are currently working with collectively? So by the completion of this cycle, we will be working with the Libra goddess in this coming cycle, and then the Capricorn goddess, and then
Gemini, then Capricorn.
Then Gemini, right, gosh. And then Capricorn. That's my personal Venus return. And then Capricorn, and then Leo, and then Pisces for the first time. So those are the 5 archetypes.
But Aries kind of stays on the world stage, or, you know, it's like we're still integrating the Aries piece until the Pisces cycle starts in 2025. So
that's right.
Yeah.
That's right. So,
yeah. And if you want to, if you can't remember that, what we just said, just go back to the first slide after the opening slide, and it has right. The 5-pointed star with all of that and what dates those cycles start.
That's right. That's right. Awesome. Thank you. Okay. So do we have anyone else? Again, you can open up your video if you'd like to do that. You can put up your hand. You can even write a little chat message to say, I'd like to talk. So any of those 3 ways are an easy way to get in the queue.
We have like 5 minutes.
Yeah, 5 more minutes.
So Gwen's asking, how is it to determine which Venus point is the beginning of the cycle? So we use the heliacal rise of Venus to begin the cycle, and then we see it as a 584-day cycle in the same way the Sumerians and the Babylonians worked with the cycle. I know that there's a Venus, the way that the Venus star point is done by Ariel Gutman and other astrologers, it's starting with the conjunction of the sun. Retrograde begins the morning star phase, and the conjunction of the sun, not retrograde, is the beginning of the evening star phase, and they don't recognize the underworld parts of it. So they just, it's just looking at morning star, evening star, whereas we're bringing in the Inanna underworld as well as the metamorphic underworld into our understanding, because that's how the story of Inanna is playing out the Venus cycle. So it's the story that literally describes the Venus cycle in the sky, and that's something that we share a lot more in our journey. Yeah.
Yes. So Sunny's asking, this is during what time frame? And I think she's asking about the 5 goddesses, and that this is within the next 8-year time frame. And then she says, please elaborate more on Sekhmet. So basically, when we began the Leo Venus cycle, which was the 2nd Venus cycle we worked with, Kaylin was having dreams about Sekhmet. I had just met a priestess at the Sekhmet temple and had a vision that we'd be there for Morning Star Rise for Leo at the Sekhmet temple in Nevada. And so she became really a very leading energy for that Leo cycle, which began in August 22nd of 2015. And then in the Aries cycle, in shamanic astrology, we really see Sekhmet as one of the most alive expressions of the Aries warrior goddess. So again, we continue to work with her. And then as Kaylin described in this cycle, you've got this, one of the versions of the Sekhmet stories integrates the energies of both Aries and Libra. You want to talk more about that, Kaylin?
Well, I mean, they can go back and listen to the beginning part of that. Just to say that Sekhmet is a solar goddess. She literally wears a solar disc on her head. She's older than how the stories are told from the Egyptian perspective, like 2,500 years ago or whatever time frame that they were writing down or creating these stories about her. She's actually older than all of that. She is a creation goddess. She's so many things, and you can work with her. There are Sekhmet priestesses, and if you go before Sekhmet to become one of her priestesses and to do her initiation, you have to be willing to die to who you think you are, so you can have a transformative experience, because she is very much an alchemical goddess herself.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. Multidimensional. So, Kaylin, did you already answer the question of how is it determined that Aries is the beginning of the current cycle? Because I was checking out. You did? Okay. So basically, Gwen, it's like when you look at the points of the star, it has to do with the sign Venus rises in. When she appears as morning star, what sign is she in? That determines the meta goddess, the archetype of the goddess that will be leading that cycle. So hopefully that makes sense.
Yeah, that's I kind of spoke to it. So that first slide, after the opening slide, is that pentagram, and it shows the dates of the next cycles, and it lasts about 19 months, 584 days for each cycle, and it takes 8 years for it to come back to a starting point.
Yep, that's right. Yeah. So I think that's all of our questions. And
just another thing to say, for those who are going to turn a multiple of 8 between November 1st and June of 2018 and June 10th or June 9th of 2020, you are going to be in a personal Venus return. I am going into my personal Venus return. So
yeah, it's exciting. It's amazing.
So this is what I have found, Tammy has found, many people have found, is when you work with the cycle ceremonially, it really activates powerful transformational change. Your life will never be the same.
No. And you might end up like us, deciding that you really want to align your life cycle with the Venus cycle. It's a very, very powerful way to live. And it's, this is real. These energies are very real. We see it again and again and again. Okay, so just Mary is saying, thank you both Kaylin and Tammy. May collaboration expand our ability to find sacred space, listen with our hearts, and drop any judgment, so we truly can serve our people and create change by creating peace.
Yes.
Beautiful. Our friend Mary Kern, who is a Scorpio Venus, is that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
No, she's a Leo Venus.
Scorpio ascendant.
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So Gwen says, so it's whichever heliacal rise changes signs first.
Not sure what that question is asking exactly.
Oh, okay. Huh. Okay.
So we do have a heliacal rise changing this time, because it's been in Scorpio, and then it's going to be in Libra this time. This is the first time it's going to be in Libra.
So yes, so Lainey is she is the metamorphic goddess. So she just said, I'm a Scorpio Venus and turning 40 this year and an alchemical goddess. So she is one of those people on this really fascinating threshold where when she was born into a Scorpio cycle. Now that it's shifting, her birthday is going to be currently, what day is your birthday again, Lainey? It's November 10th. So her birthday will have shifted, because every cycle it shifts 2 days. So she's basically straddling 2 cycles.
And we see that only happens really with the metamorphic goddess.
And if you're born really close to that Sun Venus conjunction in this window, which Lainey happens to be. So when I, so you've been in a personal cycle, and here's another personal cycle just for you because you're an alchemical goddess. So in any case, I think she's really feeling this retrograde. Yay. Oh gosh. Sacred timing. All right. So good to have you here, to have everyone here. And I think that it is time. It's 7:32.
Yes.
Should I just unmute everyone so everyone can say goodbye? Is that a good way to end, do you think? Or
if you want to.
Before you unmute, could I say something?
Yes, who's this?
Okay. Hi, I am brand new. This is my first time with you, and I really appreciate this. I am Dorothy Joy from Ohio,
Awesome.
and this is not quite about, how can I say it, like your workshops, but I have a friend who has written a wonderful book on Venus. His name is Dr. Raymond A. Keller, and the book is titled Venus Rising. He got it published in the beginning of 2016, and it is available on Amazon.com. He has since written 2 other books on Venus, and he's like an emissary for Venus here on the planet, and his twin flame is on Venus.
Wow.
So it's a fascinating book, and it is what connected me to you, because it was through his book that I really got interested in Venus. So it's Venus Rising by Dr. Raymond A. Keller.
Awesome. Thank you so much
for letting me.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. It's always good to hear.
Thank you for letting me share.
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always information that comes through around these things. It's very interesting. Just to think, for example, about Tom Kenyon, if any of you follow his work, he channels the Hathors, and the Hathors supposedly also are from Venus. Isn't that right, Kaylin? Yeah. And he's an incredible sound healer, and there are many ways to tune into these mysteries. So thank you for sharing another one with us.
You're welcome. And may I also add, because what you just said, yesterday we had the 369 code, and Nicole Tesla said, if you understand the 369 code, you understand the key to the universe. And just recently, I call him Cosmic Ray, he calls me Solara, was here in just my town of Youngstown, Ohio, to do a presentation on his books. And I already knew from the book that the bee and the horse were both gifts of Venus to the earth. And but I did not know about the dove. The dove is also a gift. And interesting, Nicole Tesla knew he was a Venusian, and he wrote a book called The Return of the Dove.
Wow. Oh, it's so fun. So many awesome synchronicities. Well, we hope that you join our course, and so that then you can share whatever insights you have with our community, continuing to do that. And to everyone who's shown up, what do you think, Kaylin, about unmuting everyone?
It's up to you, Kaylin. You're in charge.
I am in charge. So much fun. Okay, well then, I'm going to unmute everyone just for a moment, if I can actually get that up here. Just for a moment, and then if everybody can say goodbye. Oh, Kimmy. Kimmy. Hi, Kimmy. Good to see you. Okay. All participants are muted. If you want to take off your videos, we can just say, we love you. We're so glad you're here.
Blessings. Blessings.
Blessings.
Blessings.
Bye. Have a beautiful, beautiful night. Oh, beautiful faces.
Bye. Love you.
Bye. Lots of love.
Bye. Everybody.
Thank you.